Hello and welcome back to Serie A Spotlight. We're your hosts Jake
and Matt.
You know what time it is!
I can't tell you guys enough how much you've been my internal monologue when thinking about football for the last year.
Yes! Amazing! We get to record while drinking some wine. Jake and I will have a very special soft spot for Salernitana.
We love him.
We love him. Stop zooming in on Allegri's face, bro. You're gonna make
How
me
are you
break.
exposing me?
Because you're gonna make me break, man.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Serie A Spotlight. This is episode 170 and we're your hosts Jake
And Matt.
here to cover all the action of Matchday 33 in Serie A.
Everything was a little bit inconvenient this week due to the unfortunate passing of Pope Francis.
Yes.
Hallelujah.
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 That one's for Pope Francis. Not gonna lie, again, a little bit, what's the word? Inconvenient, the timing. Because now we can only cover 6 games, and while we're recording, we've got the other 4 games that are all happening at the same time. We've chosen Parma Juve.
I wish we could have many screens over there, but unfortunately, even our service provider only allows us to stream a certain amount of games together. So yes, we're watching Parma Juve as this happens. Of course, the games that were not played were Cagliari, Fiorentina, Genoa, Lazio, Torino, Udinese, and Parma Juve. They're all being played right now, but we're going to proceed normally, as this was, of course, out of our control, and our condolences to anyone who has been affected by the passing of Pope Francis and our
Including
Pope Francesco Francis, is it?
But I mean, there's the Italian variation / the Holy Variation, and our not devoted Catholics, by the way, ourselves, but we have enough respect to obviously understand that people do need to take their time to mourn.
And that's why we opted for this cover for the episode.
Yeah. Look, I mean,
there's only one Pope, no?
You either Papa Orsolino 94.
Papa Orsonaldo.
Orsonaldo 94. Yes.
Yes. Pope Orsonaldo the 94th.
Yes. Look, it's ride or die with us. This is our style.
This is us, yes.
You either like it or you don't. Is the harsh reality. I guess that is the perfect segue to our goal of the week, scored by Papa Orsonaldo 94, with his 94th minute scissor kick winner against Inter, which put Napoli and Inter level with 5 matches to go, both on 71 points. Keep in mind that as of 3 years ago, the new rule has passed that if the top 2 teams do end the season on the same amount of points, there's a Scudetto final. We're all here for it.
Exactly, yes, that would be amazing. I still remember the relegation playout between Spezia and Hellas Verona very fondly. It's an additional game.
Red card, handball off the line.
Exactly. And Inzola disaster class, and then he jumped ship right after. So yes, that would be an amazing ending to the season. There were some games also, by the way, in Serie B that did get postponed. There was a whole catalogue, a whole day of games, literally. Look how many games were postponed. Sutterol Bari, Brescia Reggiana, Cittadella Salernitana, Juve Stabia Sampdoria, etc. Anyway, do check those out, guys. Serie B is also reaching a close, and that league is always so tight, and we will be covering the playoffs as we do every single season.
Yeah. And while we're on the topic of the postponed games, the Pope's funeral is actually on Saturday, which means no Saturday games are going to take place. It's Friday, Sunday and Monday where all the Serie A and Serie B action will be taking place, but we're not giving enough credit to
the goal.
Orsolini's
Yes, I changed the subject
winner,
for some reason. I think it might be the Serrano. Orsolini's goal was an incredible bit of improvisation and instinct and reflexes, everything. First of all, smart to take the throw in so quickly, just like hoofing it into the, just tossing it into the box. and praying at that point. It was a last hurrah, basically.
Hallelujah. Sorry.
Bisek very recklessly with his head over there. They headed back to Orsolini. And Di Marco, of course, not committing enough to the defender. However, the goal was brilliant by a player who is on extraordinary form this season, the form of his life. A player who's been getting better and better.
Not only
recently.
this season, he's been insane over the past few seasons.
Yes, but this season I feel like he's reached new levels when it comes to his consistency.
I think he reached that last season, to be fair.
Fair enough. I had a great season
I had him on
last year.
Fanta and I took him again. Numbers-wise, Orsolini has been over the past 2 years consistent. I know he was inconsistent in the past.
Yes.
He had spells, but he had a fantastic season last season. He's having another one this season. I don't think this is his breakout, though. I think his breakout was under Motta
it's not his
last season.
But this, I think, is his best season, probably numerically. We will confirm that this season.
Numerically, yes. Numerically, yes.
Like, but he's never been. Season. Yes, of course. He's never been this productive. He's got 12 goals and 3 assists in the league alone this season, which is very good considering he's a winger at the end of the day.
Came off the bench
and changed the game. Some smart substitutions there by Italiano. We will be going into that, of course, in more detail later on.
Before we dive in, thank you to our media partners, Benevo Bid. Beautiful kits on display over here, signed by the men themselves. Check out their exclusive auctions where you can bid on autographed items from top players, some of your favorite players, including match-issued kits. Most of the proceeds go to a local charity called Puttino Cares. Hit the link in our description to get your bids in. They are coming to a close, so do rush over and have a look. If you guys are new here, make sure to follow us on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, and YouTube, and rate us 5 stars on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts, with weekly episodes covering every single match, every single team, every single week, and have weekly bonus tactical analysis episodes called Tactics Imperium by John Leah. If you really love us, become a patron. It's $3.99 a month, and you can win a free kit if you win our fantasy league. And who is our patron of the week, bro?
Our patron of the week is Anthony Locash, because we're coming.
We're coming, bro.
And that's it. That's just between us and Anthony.
We're coming.
We're coming. It's happening.
Yeah.
But that's it. Shout out to our new patron, by the way, who has yet to join the group. Please do check your inbox on Patreon itself. Sheriff Anyorin is the name. I was convinced that it was the Anyorin who plays for Empoli. In fact, I had to check the name to make sure. But it isn't. But he's from the Great Britain as well.
Okay.
So yeah, it would have made sense. But shout out to you and thank you very much for your support and welcome to the family. Do DM us. We will add you to the WhatsApp group
if
chat.
you want.
If you want, yeah.
Give it a shot. If you don't like it, you can archive us or you can
mute
whatever.
it. Yeah.
But I'm sure you love it. If you guys noticed that Jake and I are a little bit off today, it is because there is the second leg of the Coppa Italia semi-final between Inter and Milan that is currently at a stalemate. I'm personally not doing too well. I'm glad that I was busy throughout my day, so it kept my mind off it. But every time, my wallpaper is a drawing Jake made of Reinders. Every time I swipe and see that, my heart skips a beat, man. Jesus Christ. Is it going to be the 3-4-3? Is it going to be the 4-3-3?
And that's an interesting one. If you want to talk a little bit about it. Lately, Milan, of course, have been playing a 3 at the back formation against Udinese. It worked really well. Against Atalanta, not so much, to be honest. Against Inter, do you go for the thing that has worked over 3 games this season, with a 4 at the back? It seems to be effective against them. And not play with a natural right back, because that's one of the reasons that the 3 at the back was forced, right? Because of Kyle Walker's injury and Emerson Royale's unavailability.
That would have changed a lot if Emerson Royale was fit.
Right, it really would have. Do you opt for that system, the 3 at the back, to make up for the lost player and the leakiness at the back? Or do you go for the system that has worked 3 times a season? What would you do?
I would opt for the 3-4-3 with adjustments. I think stylistically it just suits Milan a bit more. I think Milan were super uninspired against Atalanta, and I don't really blame the formation. Everyone on the pitch sucked. And I don't think that had much to do with the formation, but more about the mentality Milan currently have when it comes to Serie A football. I think the win against Udinese was very different to that. Atalanta are a tough team to play against, and perhaps Milan went into that game slightly intimidated or expecting the worst. I think with the right adjustments, and when I say the right adjustments, I mean the on-the-ball movements that were so good against Udinese, kind of fixing up the on-the-ball movements, including Theo Hernandez, offering a little bit more width. We didn't see much of Theo Hernandez in the last game at all, particularly in the first half. And secondly, off the ball, I want to see that midfield a bit more packed, because a two-man midfield off the ball isn't the way to go against Inter, because that's Inter's strong suit, right? Their three-man midfield, and the way that their three defenders enter the midfield area. So the center of the park is very packed with Inter. If Pulisic and Leao do a good job, or if not, Jovic or Tammy Abraham dropping into a false nine role to cover the middle the same way Morata did in Matchday, whatever, against Inter, then it could work. But I think Milan should really stick with this 3-4-3 formation.
It's interesting. Yeah, I would argue that you need to go with what's worked so far. You've got a literal playbook of a successful system that has been troubling a team that, as it stands, are missing the players that can actually stretch the Milan defense. So if you go in to kind of with the aim maybe to kind of hit these guys on the break and to sit back, you risk giving their technical players the time on the ball, right? They're missing Dumfries and Thuram. And apart from Dumfries and Thuram, there aren't really many players who can hit on the counter and who can actually stretch your defense and cause defenders problems. Especially when you look at Milan's centre-backs, who have pretty decent recovery speed. In Tomori, Pavlovic, Chow, of course, they're quite quick. So I don't know. I think that this game could see a different approach, even when you consider the fact that the energy levels are so different between the teams. Milan lost to Atalanta, and they looked, to be honest, at times a little bit indifferent. Maybe there was a lack of hunger because of the situation in the league. However, against Inter, it's a different story, right? This is a trophy that Milan won. They've only won it 6 times, I believe, in their history. It's been ages, so this is something that might actually kind of make the season look a little bit prettier in hindsight, because there were two trophies, right? So
we'll see a completely different Milan.
We will see.
Because I think Conceição doesn't give a fuck about the league, because Conceição is done. I heard him speak the other day, or I saw a quote rather. He's finished. He's talking about how after the match against Cagliari, they were already talking about bringing in a new coach, and that he feels disrespected. We don't know if it's by the media, by the fans, or by the club, but he feels disrespected about something. He knows Milan aren't going to renew his contract. They have that 6-month clause, the option to renew, and they're not going to renew. They know there's nothing to play for in the league, but when it comes to this and Milan can actually win, then you're actually going to have a motivated coach. You're going to have a motivated set of players and a fan base that is going to be cheering on the team, because it's a trophy that Milan are still in, which is rare this season. I think who's going to motivate the players? The players already aren't motivated in the league, I'm saying. Neither is the manager, and the fans are done.
I think the manager is motivated to kind of keep his job, bro. I mean, he's clearly tinkering. It's not like he's not trying out new things and he's looking placid on the side. You know, he was losing his mind during the Atalanta game. He obviously wanted to get something out of that game. I think he's fighting for his job, when in reality perhaps the players on the pitch are indifferent, because I don't know if it's the fact that they're not playing for their manager. They couldn't care less if it's him or someone else next season. Maybe they've given up on the league, so they're just saving themselves for the Coppa game. But I saw lots of complacency, or rather indifference, not even complacency,
that's it.
During the game against Atalanta, and it was clear that Atalanta had something to play for it.
Yeah.
They're trying to stay in that Champions League
game
spot.
was always only going to go one way. Shall we jump into Matchday 33 and talk about what happened over there? We'll see very soon what's going to happen.
Exactly. Piccoli scored, by the way, for Cagliari.
He's
put Fiorentina in the lead, and unfortunately for Parma, in the first 10 minutes they had 2 injuries.
What?
Yes, Vogliacco and Bernabe were all subbed out. Yes, Bernabe again. It didn't look too bad. Vogliacco was distraught though, from what I saw on the TV over there.
Yeah. So this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna talk about. So I'll just do a quick rundown.
Sure.
Before I get into it, so there was Bologna 1, Inter 0. Orsolini's 94th minute winner made things a whole lot more interesting as these 3 dropped points for Inter allowed Napoli to catch up and level points after Napoli's narrow 1-0 away win over Monza, where Scott McTominay bagged another crucial goal and his 3rd in 2 matches. This points to a potential Serie A final between Inter and Napoli after the recent rule change. And in other news, Monza are certainly relegated, and Bologna have put pressure on Juve after momentarily overtaking them in 4th place, pending their away match to Parma, which is currently taking place. Milan 0, Atalanta 1. Atalanta took another huge step to Champions League football, whilst Milan seems certain to miss out on European football as a whole, depending on their Coppa Italia second leg fixture against Inter. Obviously, if Milan go ahead and win the Coppa Italia, then that's Europa League football.
Mm-hmm.
Roma 1, Verona 0. After 2 draws, Roma are back to beating relegation-threatened teams 1-0, as they did against Lecce, Cagliari, Empoli, Parma and Venezia, all in 2025. Shomurodov this time was the scorer, and it was in the opening 4 minutes. After that, it was
set up beautifully by Sule, who's really
I love him. Lecce 0, Como 3. A Diao doppietta means he's now scored 8 goals in 15 matches since joining Como. Lecce could have fallen into the relegation zone, but they were saved after Empoli and Venezia drew 2-2 in a thrilling relegation 6-pointer, where Venezia thought that they won it in the 85th minute, only for Empoli to equalise in the 87th through Anjorin. Neither team will be happy, and Empoli have not yet to win a match in 2025. But the first game is Bologna-Inter. That is your game, so kindly take it away, bro.
Of course, we're talking about a game that was decided by a 94th minute scissor kick volley is what I'm going to call it, because not quite a scissor kick, not quite a volley, therefore it's a scissor kick volley, right?
That's exactly it.
Yeah, of a long throw-in that was flicked in by Bissek. This reignited the title race, of course, as you mentioned. Both teams, in Napoli and Inter, are joint with 71 points at the top. The match was intense and quite physical, with Bologna dominating possession and creating clearer chances, including one moment where Dallinga had what seemed to be a tap-in that was blocked by, I thought it was Archerbi, but you said it was Pavard, right?
It was Pavard. I saw number 28, I know that's Pavard.
Okay, and there was a big miss as well by Cambiaghi after Holm set him up quite nicely with a perfect cross, to be honest. Inter did seem to look fatigued from their midweek Champions League win over Bayern Munich, which was very impressive, and we would like to congratulate them.
Just to point out, and I know we'll talk about it later, really impressed by the lack of rotation by Inzaghi, because these guys were shafted, and no shit, it's virtually the same team that played Bayern Munich midweek.
Exactly, and it was one of the oldest teams to win a knockout game in Champions League history, with 4 players being over 35 in the starting 11. And he's playing them too much, he's milking them dry. And what happens then is if you're going to rotate forcefully because of injuries, then you're going to put players that aren't used to playing important roles in uncomfortable situations, right? So that's why it's important to ease players into the system when, there's less pressure, or maybe, like popping in Bissek, for example. This is what we used to say last season, remember? That Bissek could have got games against relegation teams, for example. Play the starting 11, sure, but just swap one player, play Bissek with the rest of them just to get him used. So he's not even a bad defender. But nowadays, he's not confident enough in this team. He doesn't feel like a proper starter. So when he's on the pitch, he does look nervous quite often. And this season he has looked nervous, Bissek.
Yep,
and he has made mistakes, shaky.
And a lot of mistakes in key opportunities. I remember that 4-4 draw to Juve, where he came on, and I believe he came on and Inter conceded 2, and they came 4-4. and he was out of sorts completely. And I believe there was a mistake he made really early on in the season, and Inzaghi had benched him for like an entire month.
That
After
rings
that,
true.
there was that, eh?
There was. I believe that happened. I can't remember the details, but I remember covering it.
Let's finish the play-by-play.
Correa was ineffective as a starter, and Lautaro Martinez was unable to convert the few chances he got. And in fact, it's God bless you.
Thank you.
God bless you.
Thank you.
I hope you're okay.
Okay.
When it comes to shots on target, I believe Inter had 1 all game. If you could confirm that for me, because for some reason my stats are missing shots on target, but I do believe it was 1 all game. In the meantime, I'll go on.
Shots on target for Inter. What the hell even
it's not there.
What the hell? Sofa score.
Come on, guys.
Do better.
Yeah, you look it up on Flash Score, and maybe we'll convert to them. Flash Score. But yes, there was a fight, which was interesting to see. Beukema provoked Arnautovic. He knew he was picking on. It sparked a heated clash involving Lautaro and Castro. The coaches, Fares and Italiano, who had both been ejected. Of course, Fares replacing Inzaghi this game. Who was suspended, intervened to defuse the situation. Yellow cards were issued to the likes of Arnautovic, Castro and Orsolini. Orsolini's yellow card, of course, coming for excessive celebration, as he got naked so quickly. And he had 2 layers, and one was skin tight. Yes, of course, no shit.
The second
that goal was meant
the back of the net, you take your shirt off,
of
even
course,
if you're on a yellow
course,
card. Like,
of course.
And the celebrations. Man, I love Bologna so much with the tower in the background. There are some really sick shots. There's the cameraman did a great job. You get to observe the cameraman work through the actual highlights of the game. He's clearly
the social media cameraman.
He's clearly holding back so much emotion. That just happened in front of him, and he needs his hands to be steady, and he needs to capture the moment.
And then he tries to keep up with them on the running tracks and falls behind, like doesn't quite have the pace. Right?
I love this. This is the thing. I agree that the fans should be closer to the stadium, 100%. But Tonali against Lazio, Orsolini against Inter, when you run through the tracks.
Cavani back in the day against Lecce.
Back in the day. I love that, jumping over the advertising board and sprinting to the fans. It's super iconic, man.
It really is.
And just to confirm, it was 1 shot on target.
1 shot on target, right? All game for Inter. They didn't really threaten. They looked exhausted. And now in this game, Mkhitaryan and Bastoni were also booked. They will miss the next match. So now Inzaghi's hand is being forced, perhaps due to due to his lack of rotation. You know, now he is being forced to do so. So I thought that this game was quite even, to be honest, and it wasn't like Bologna blew them out of the water, because apart from that Dallinga chance and the Cambiaghi chance, there weren't really any moments. But that moment of magic at the end made all the difference, and it was one hell of a spectacle simply because of that dramatic ending, man.
I don't think throughout the entire game I was ever, or Inter were ever threatened by Bologna scoring. And the other way around. Literally, there was a severe lack of clear-cut chances, and the actual overall quality of the game wasn't super high. In fact, that was a bit of a theme in Serie A this weekend. We saw Atalanta against Milan, one of the worst first halves I've ever seen in my life, mirroring pretty much that Juve against Milan, and that took place earlier this season as well.
19% ball possession for Milan.
Ridiculous.
In that first half for a period of 20 minutes. I don't think it was the full first half, but that was awful.
No, it was like the last 15 minutes of the first half. But this is a game of moments, and Bologna had the moment.
They did.
You could call it luck. I wouldn't, because he kept Orsolini on the bench for a reason.
Of course.
And the commentator said at the start of the game, he's gonna be miffed, Orsolini. He's gonna come on with an attitude, and he might just pull something out of his hat. And he did. And this is the good thing about Bologna. Bologna have 90 minutes in them. Inter don't. If anything was going to happen in this match, look at this. How much success do Bologna find towards the end of the match? Because they've got 90 minutes in them. quite a bit of success. You see them get late goals, you see them go until the end, and even on the bench, they're stacked with young players that want to come on and give it their all for the remainder of the match. Inter, on the other hand, complete contrast from last season. Last season, they broke a record. They went almost the entire season without conceding in the last 15 minutes of a match.
Yeah.
And then they had conceded 2 in the last 15 minutes towards the end of the season. I believe against Sassuolo.
It's been a long 2 years for Inter, man.
But now, Inter, in the second half, they always concede. And in the last 15 minutes, they're conceding a bunch of late goals. They're conceding a bunch of late goals because their players are physically at their limit at that point. And you can see it in them. Di Marco not tracking back adequately. Now, I know Di Marco has never really been known for his defensive acumen, but rather his offensive effectiveness, so to say. But you see so much vulnerability in those defenders and in the tracking back of the team in the last 15 minutes of the game. And that points to a lack of rotation by Simone Inzaghi. Now, is Simone Inzaghi not rotating because of the lack of options? Or is it a choice by him to maintain the quality of the players he has on the pitch?
So what is clear to see is that Inzaghi believes in the old adage of match fitness, almost to a video game level, very, very old school, to be honest, as an approach. Because even if they've got a Saturday match against Cagliari and they're playing in the Champions League on Tuesday and Barella didn't start against Cagliari and Inter are 2-0 up, in the 75th minute he's bringing on Barella, just to keep him match sharp, in inverted commas. I think that is very risky, of course, and it's kind of unnecessary nowadays, right? With so much football being played, it's hard to not be match sharp when you're a regular starter. You're playing twice a week at a minimum, playing every 4 days, to be honest with you. And on your point on Bologna having 90 minutes in them, Bologna nowadays are playing once a week, apart from the Coppa Italia, right?
No, that's facts.
And that's it. That's why we've been saying this from the beginning of the season. That Inter are at a disadvantage when it comes to the title race because they play more than once a week, and Napoli play once a week. That
paired with the average age of their squad.
Exactly. Yes. Very, very good point. And the fact that the options on the bench, as we always say, don't quite do the same thing, right?
But can I just say this? Don't. This really angry because there are still options. There are still options that for a game against Bologna, he can bring on players. Like, I'm going to read you their bench and tell me, for the love of God, if anyone would say that they don't have options. I know that Inter have a unique squad and they need to maintain the unique attributes of the players on the pitch in order to play to the strengths of Simone Inzaghi. But this is a significant limitation that the coach is offering, because I've heard a lot of criticism about what's his name? He's got one eye on the game and one eye on Marotta. I've heard a lot of criticism going towards Marotta now. Saying he knew that Inter were going to be competing on 3 fronts and he should have stacked their bench up a little bit more. Now, it's true, Inter didn't have a very active summer period and summer market, and perhaps they should make little changes season by season to keep the team fresh and to add some new young talent, for example. But on the bench, Frattesi, Di Marco, Taremi, Bissek, Arnautovic, Kokki, whatever, Devray, Berenburg, Aslani, Zalewski.
So let's
there's
look.
talent.
Yes,
there
is talent.
You're playing Mkhitaryan, who was doubtful for the game.
That's bizarre to me, the fact that he's running Mkhitaryan to the ground, man.
He's
like Frattesi surely
Mkhitaryan.
should have. So, I mean, he played well. He's a good player, Mkhitaryan. He's always going to play well, but
relax.
but he's exhausted, And even Darmian, man, like, is Zalewski really not an option? I'm sure he has his reasons. However, his reasons, whatever they may be, may cost him a trophy or two by the end of the season. Of course, Inter, this game is a consequence of their midweek impressive game against Bayern Munich.
Yes, absolutely.
Because they got the job done there, and they really are impressing on an international stage. Of course, something has to give, right? When you are at this stage in the season, this is when everything starts cramming and when fatigue really comes in. And if Inter are hit with one or two more injuries, it can be devastating, and it can affect them on all three fronts, and it could end very tragically for Inter.
It is almost.
We'll see tonight. Tonight will be.
It is
could
almost
be step one, but
it is almost likely that Inter could crash out of all competitions
in the coming days. Yes, it could be.
It's almost
it could also
likely
be that they shut us up and they show us what
I
they've
think
got. They
Inter
show us their metal.
have more of a chance of winning the Champions League, and what I'm saying is crazy now. But I'm a crazy guy.
He's a crazy guy.
I see Inter not have more of a chance, but I do see Inter
More likely to.
more likely to win the Champions League than Serie A. I see them not more likely. I see them winning Champions League more than I see them winning
They
Serie
have
A.
to win 3 more games to win the Champions League, and they could get away with 2, huh? Potential. Now we'll see. Everyone's talking about Arsenal being the favourites. You know what I call those? Filthy, dirty casuals, bro. That's what I call
Arsenal
them.
are lit.
Arsenal are really good, and they're quite comfortable in the standings in the Premier League, so they do have an advantage, and they've got that togetherness. And their coach is a straight up hippie, so
I love him.
Yeah, he's great.
With his physics projects in the middle of a dressing room.
Everyone, hold hands.
Shall we jump to Bologna
Now,
a
Keys.
little bit?
Ottawa got sent off for Genoa against Lazio. Live updates, even though you're probably listening to this 5 days after this game has been played.
But Serie A spotlight.
Serie A
You
spotlight.
updated
Our eyes are
all the way.
yes, I have some tactical notes I haven't even addressed yet.
Okay.
Atalanta, of course, we're in a flexible 3-4-1-2.
Atalanta.
Oh, sorry. Whoops, I'm reading the wrong shit. So, yes, Bologna employed a fluid 4-2-3-1 system with high pressing and dynamic wing play, particularly through Ndoye on the right, who caused a lot of problems. He exploited Inter's left flank, often catching Carlos Augusto out of position. Odegaard had a dual role this game. He was marking Çalhanoğlu defensively while roaming offensively and trying to find those pockets of space to become an option. He disrupted Inter's midfield rhythm really well, and he was the one who forced Mkhitaryan into a costly yellow card. So shout out to Odegaard, great game, nice to see you again. Bologna's
Good
compact
to see you, Odegaard, man.
shape and quick transitions created overloads for them, with Ndoye and Abishai generating quite a few chances. And that's how, in fact, the Dalinga chance was created, and Pavard stopped that from going in. Inter and their 3-5-2 started brightly, to be honest, but Çalhanoğlu's thanks to Çalhanoğlu's quick distribution and Lautaro's movement, but they did lack penetration early on, and eventually they did get quite tired. An example of the lack of penetration was Carlos Augusto's header from that corner that couldn't quite hit the target. Yes, so I do think that fatigue killed their tempo, while the players who were brought in to be the fresh legs, like Correa, proved to be ineffective. Barella was unable to dictate play.
Correa started the game.
Yes. He was the one who was brought on as into the starting 11. Inter struggled to break down Bologna's mid-block, and their high defensive line was really vulnerable to Ndoye. Acerbi and Pavard did hold firm, however, despite all of this, until the very final moments when Bissek fucked them up, to be honest.
I think it must have looked like, to either people that don't watch, to the casuals kind of thing, like a boring game, but I think where we saw most of the action was, like you said, kind of in the mid-block area, when it comes to the defenders playing the ball out, or the deep-lying playmaker playing the ball out. I think over there, seeing the press of both teams trying to disrupt the other team, it was almost like a game of chess, but they were trying to disrupt it from the first movement. I think what we saw by Bologna that was very good over there, a slightly more direct play, trying to, instead of building the ball up slowly from the back, perhaps the same way Inter do, they were really going direct and slightly going for the more long balls. Of course, it didn't bring them much success until they managed to get the ball to the wing and obviously score that bicycle kick in the 94th minute. But it's like that's where most of the action took place, right?
One thing I liked that you did say earlier on, is how Italiano seemed to be aware that Inter fizzle out towards the end of games, and that's when he brought on Orsolini, Castro, and Cambiaghi, and those are three options who. They're players who are high on confidence. They're players who are having a good season. You look at Orsolini again. He had a great season last season, having another great season this one. Castro, his first season, he's replacing Zirkzee. He's having a breakout season in Serie A. Cambiaghi has just moved from Empoli and he's playing very comfortably in a Champions League challenging team. Yeah. So these are three players who came on hungry and frothing at the mouth, and they caused many problems. To Inter. So yeah. Well done, Bologna. What a game. What a league this season. Compare this league to the Premier League, for example, man.
The Premier League.
I'm sorry, let's use the Premier League, the greatest league, as an example, right? Everyone's talking about because the Champions League race in the Premier League is so thrilling, right? Liverpool are fucking clear of the title, and it was clear that they were going to win it ages ago. The three teams that are relegated and have been relegated already. Like the cutoff point is over 10 points between the bottom three and the rest. So all there is in the Premier League right now is who's going to finish in a European spot. When you look at Serie A right now, you don't really know who's going to be relegated. No one's been mathematically relegated yet. I mean, we can say Monza are going to be relegated. But every weekend there's drama after drama and the narrative changes a little bit. The European spots, God knows what's going to happen. The title race, we have two teams level on points with like 6 games to go. What, bro? This is a really good season. 5 games to go. Yeah, mental.
No. I mean, we say this. Best league in the world, bro.
Best league in the world.
That's why we're here doing a podcast about this. You think if there was a better league than Serie A, we wouldn't have a podcast about that? No, have a podcast about Serie A. So
you're right, bro. You're right. Because we only watch the best.
Exactly. We were going to waste our time watching second best or third best or fourth best. Yeah. Whatever.
There's been a goal.
Tati Castellanos.
Castellanos back on the scoring.
On your Fanta.
Yes. No.
Amazing. You don't have Tati?
No, I don't.
You don't have Tati Rose.
And Fiorentina scored as well.
Who scored?
Gosens.
That's 1-1 Cagliari Fiorentina. Okay. So obviously Inter dropping 3 points over there. Who took advantage? Obviously Napoli. Winning 1-0 away to relegation destined Monza. It wasn't exactly a statement performance by Napoli that got them level on points with Inter. But they did what they had to do. And once again, we're on this podcast talking about the Manchester United reject, Scott McTominay, who once again was the hero for Napoli, time and time again now. That's his 3rd goal in 2 matches. That's his, I believe, 9th goal of the season. It's just ridiculous. The guy is a striker. He's a striker. He's a striker with 3 lungs that drops back to midfield and to carry the ball forward. So impressive.
I know it's cringe, but he's Braveheart.
He's got... let me tell you what he does.
9 goals, 2 assists.
He wears a kilt without underwear. That's what he does. Because that's the traditional way.
And he doesn't close his legs when he sits down.
Exactly.
No, that's the type of guy McTominay is. He is honestly really good at moving between the midfield and the defense.
I have a point to make. I was going to do this in my talking points. If Napoli win the league, he's the MVP of Serie A this season. If
That's
Napoli win the league, he's the MVP.
He is the spirit, the goal getter, the underdog. He is everything. He embodies this Conte team
from the start. He's done everything correctly. Everything.
But to be honest, man, this Napoli team has many pieces that play a big part. You're telling me if Lukaku did his ACL, for example, it'd be anywhere near where they are. No. Lukaku has been monstrous this season, bro. He's been the heart and soul. He gives them the route 1 option. Hoofed it long. Lukaku is going to win it every time. His hold-up play is excellent. He is, as I said last episode, he knows where to pass and when to pass, and he's doing a great job. Politano's working tirelessly. Gilmore has been a revelation. Lobotka underrated as always. Rahmani great. Di Lorenzo having a good season, back to his best. They're all playing their part. They've just got certain positions that aren't as flashy as others, and when it comes to their rotation options as well, they've got a few names who can get the job done, but overall, when it comes to the overall quality of the team, they're not as good as the other teams around them, but they've got this underdog mentality, and Conte as the ringleader, creating this us against the world mentality, and they are thriving, man.
Because
they're thriving.
that is exactly what Napoli needed, because they are underdogs. They finished 10th last season, dog.
Yeah.
Can you imagine Milan next year on a title push? That's the equivalent of what Napoli are doing right here.
And it was Marin who started this game. I played pretty well.
So Marin stepped in at centre-back following the injury of Buongiorno and his replacement Jesus. Gilmore started ahead of Anguissa, and Spinazzola played as a makeshift left winger in the absence of Neres. For Monza, a striking duo of Caprari and Mota was opted for due to Balde's injury, and also Pessina, Izzo and D'Ambrosio are still injured. Napoli failed to create clear-cut chances, whilst Monza could and should have done better through Castrovilli and Bianco in the early stages of the match.
Selfish by Castrovilli, yeah?
Yep. The introduction of Raspadori for Oliveira and a clear shift to the 3-4-3 formation really helped Napoli start to link the midfield to the attack. And in fact, in the 72nd minute, McTominay got the only goal of the match with a header after a dangerous in-swinging cross by who else? Then Raspadori. Calderola failed to pick it up. Calderola actually hit Command Z. Or Control Alt Delete. He went AFK. He saw the ball coming in. He was tracking McTominay. Accepted that McTominay stepped a step too far behind him, and then he just walked in the other direction.
Sus behavior.
On
by
the
Calderola.
other hand, Turati. Now, this is a breakdown of communication between Turati and Calderola. Turati came out to claim the ball when he certainly shouldn't have. Like, it was way too far out for Turati. And we say Turati is excellent on his line. It's in these situations where he has to make a decision.
He shows that he's young.
Where he shows a bit of inexperience. But was it the fault of... Because Turati might have done that because Calderola literally went AFK, you know? So they both fucked up.
For those who didn't see it, it's actually quite bizarre. Calderola is clearly marking McTominay, clearly.
And you could see him right before Raspadori whips the ball in.
Yeah.
He's got his eyes on him. He's looking directly at McTominay.
The cross comes in. McTominay moves behind him. Calderola does this weird 360. And as the cross is coming over him, instead of marking his man, he runs towards the goalpost to kind of step on the line to block the shot. I guess, I don't know. It was actually, in my opinion, sus behavior. I don't want to make a claim over here, but really the way he marshaled Lukaku all game, and the way that he is as a centre-back in general, it didn't really make much sense to me to see him doing what he did. He's an experienced defender. I don't know.
It was quite
sus.
weird.
Let's just say that. Sus.
Let's just say, dude.
Weird, huh?
Fuck
weird.
it, I'm
It's
going to
weird.
say it. In Serie A, the Italians love betting. Like, I don't know. Maybe there's something over there because it's just really weird behavior.
Maybe he's one of the 12 names.
Literally. Jump back a bit to McTominay. 9 goals in Serie A this season. That's his best ever return in a singular season. And more importantly, he's now the match winner in 6 games this season.
Wow. There he is, man. Freedom.
There's been a goal.
There's been a goal. Shea Adams against Udinese.
Wonder. Wow.
Yeah,
Torino,
wow.
Udinese.
Yeah.
They're playing beach volleyball.
This will end in a draw no matter what.
It's literally a game of beach volleyball.
Yeah, but everyone at Udinese, I think, just took the rest of the year off, by the way. No Thuvan, no Lucca, no Sanchez. They're all gone.
Oh, my throat hurts. Raspadori is playing in his favoured position this season, being used as depth, but very effectively because Conte, through crisis, has come up with a plan B, something that he perhaps has lacked in the past. He found through managing a super thin squad. Raspadori, in his game-changing cameo, he had 1 assist and 2 chances created in 30 minutes in a game where Napoli were not penetrating Monza at all. He finally unlocked Napoli's attack, and his creativity and Politano's more direct style really complemented. They really complemented each other and Lukaku well. I have to make a point that Raspadori, that for me, in my opinion, we were talking about this before we started recording this episode. There's only one formation Italy should play, and it's a 3-5-2. Not Italiano. Spalletti. You can't play a 3-5-2. You're getting paid. Figure it out. At the end of the day, you genuinely.
Players score to their strengths, man.
Figure out the 3-5-2. You've got Di Marco, you've got Bastoni, you've got Barella, you've got Moiskin and Retegui, Bellanova, or Cambiaso. Make it work. You have the squad for it. It's a 3-5-2, and I'll go so far as to say that I almost prefer one of Keane and Retegui, one of each one, to be complemented by someone like Raspadori playing alongside them rather than those two playing alongside each other.
It makes sense, bro. It makes sense. You need that 9, and you need next to him kind of that 10. That 10, that player who's able to take the ball down, to shift, to turn in tight spaces. The player you can play a quick 1-2 with. Raspadori in a 1-2 can beat his man way more quickly than Keane or Retegui does. It's a flash, it's just, and he's fucking clean through. Yeah. That's a great point, to be honest. And it's interesting with the Italian national team, because you can make a claim for the 4-3-3 with Zaccagni, Retegui, or Keane, and perhaps Orsolini hasn't even been called up, for example. And if Spalletti actually prefers a 4-3-3, then Orsolini should definitely be called up.
But hello, plan B. A plan B is if you play a 3-5-2, doesn't mean you're only gonna call up wing backs and central midfielders and strikers. Goal! Parma just scored.
Pellegrino. This is what you get, Venezia.
Pellegrino.
This is what you get. This Pellegrino guy is gas, bro. Look at that guy.
I love him. Sign him up. Sorry guys. Parma 1-0 Juve. So Bologna are in 4th right now.
Straight up crying, bro.
He is, bro. He just scored against Juve. Of course you cry.
What a goal.
Pellegrino,
what a towering header. Kivo looks so weird without his helmet,
Kivo does look weird without his helmet. I didn't recognize him straight.
No, honestly, Kivo to me, and my memory in my mind, when I imagine him with the helmet. I was shocked to see what a beautiful hairline he has. That's a great
defending.
Great header.
By Vega?
No, Kelly.
No shit. Rafa Marin made his first Serie A start.
Was it his first Serie A start this season, surely?
Yes, this season.
Okay.
No, I think first ever Serie A start for Rafa Marin. He had an early block on Dani Mota that saved Napoli. Now's his opportunity, There's the rest of the 5 games of the season. I'm not too sure how long Buongiorno and Jesus have out, but he could really grow to be this key rotational player. How old is he? Can you have a bit of a deep dive on him?
Excuse me. He
was good. I enjoyed it.
22 years old.
22 years old. For a centre-back, it's young.
Yes, great. He's a Real Madrid Castilla youth product. Played for Deportivo as well on loan. And now he finds himself at Napoli. He played a pretty good game this game. I know it was against Monza, but they do have a few tricks up their sleeve. We saw them scoring 2 goals against Inter. That Dani Mota is very unpredictable, and Caprari is a very experienced player. Castrovilli at a point, like you said, if he wasn't thinking about his whole story and his return from injury and everything like that, and he squared it as he should have, they would have... They would have scored, frankly.
Absolutely.
Literally,
Absolutely. Yeah. Shall we do this? Let's, to close this game off, because I feel like we spoke a bit about the title implications when speaking about Inter as well. Let's go through the remaining fixtures of Napoli and Inter. Okay? So, Napoli, remaining fixtures, so they have 5 games left. 5 Serie A League games left. They've got Torino at home, they've got Lecce away, Genoa home, Parma away, Cagliari home. In my opinion, I know Napoli have been super inconsistent in 2025.
It's unlikely that they win all 5.
That's not a handball.
We'll have to focus on.
Sorry. They can win all of these games. Coulda, shoulda, woulda kind of thing. Their toughest one is Parma away that I don't have full confidence about.
Really, it's the Torino game for me, man. The next
Torino
one.
Home.
Yes,
Torino home.
Torino are just nowadays they don't have the pressure.
Napoli.
They don't have any pressure of being relegated or having to win the game.
Exactly.
They can just show up and play their game, and they're such a tight force, bro. Torino don't concede that much. In fact, I don't have a stat prepared. I'm just gonna take a look at their games recently. They don't concede more than 1 goal a game very often, to be honest with you. They conceded 2 to Parma, but then they scored 2 as well. 3 to Bologna, fair enough, but then they scored 2. So they're a team that it's almost like once you score against them, they can hit you back. But they don't often concede many goals. So they are a tough team to score against, and we've seen Napoli struggle to score. That's what scares me.
I think Parma away is a tougher game because you're going to a relegation threatened side in their stadium. With Torino, you're home. A stadium packed with Napoli fans against a team that have nothing left to play for. I think it's
don't get me wrong.
I think it's a complete difference. So that's Torino, Lecce, Genoa, Parma, Cagliari. Essentially, bottom 10. All bottom 10. Technically, easy fixtures, light fixtures. Inter, on the other hand, tonight, Milan in the Coppa at home. And then Roma home, and then Barcelona away. Then Verona home, then Barcelona home, then Torino away, Lazio home, Como away. When looking at the fixtures, I'm like, this is a fucking no-brainer. This isn't gonna go to Scudetto Finalissima or whatever. Napoli are gonna win the league. As we've said, from like December, that Napoli are gonna win the league. And I stand by that. I think these fixtures are a lot for Inter, for the raging squad. I don't want to discount them. I think they'll get a trophy. I don't think they'll win the Scudetto though.
What do you think they'll win? So the Champions League?
I don't know, bro. They might win nothing. They might, genuinely. As in, this could age like milk because they're playing me.
They win the treble
Inter
now.
can win the Coppa. They can win the Coppa. And I fancy them in the Champions League. I just don't fancy them in the Scudetto.
Okay.
If I had to make a bold prediction right now, I say Inter win nothing. just to be not a guy that plays it safe. Because I hate having a podcast and playing it safe and being a nerd. Inter win nothing.
Inter win the Coppa Italia, bro.
Okay.
And they beat us tonight.
Okay. Fair. Or they win nothing.
Okay. But whatever. See, let us know what you think, guys, because this honestly is such an interesting conversation. I would like to hear your opinions as to why you think this will happen. We've pretty much exhausted our opinions.
Can we agree that Inter aren't going to win the treble and that it's
the treble is a stretch? I mean, they're in it. They're in it. It's going to be discussed until they're out of it. You
Exactly.
know? And they deserve to be in the discussion because they've competed really well on all fronts until this moment. It's just that this moment has proven to be the most complicated. Everything, all the problems have started to creep in right now. Fatigue, the age of the squad, injuries, tough fixtures, quite frankly, and crammed fixtures. So yeah, everything is coming together in the worst way possible for Inter.
Yes. I think we've exhausted this section.
Yes.
We can move on to your next game, brother.
My next game, oh god, it's Milan. Can we just fucking stop talking about Milan, man, in the league?
Bro, let's start a podcast. I swear we'll cover all the games. It'll be fun. First season, amazing. Milan win the league. We're all like hyped. This is a disaster of a season. Huh? Anyway, let's get into it.
So yes, Atalanta beat Milan 1-0 at San Siro, consolidating their third place in Serie A with 64 points. While Milan remains stranded in 9th with 51 points and European hopes fading. To be honest, faded, right?
Milan's worst finish in the banter era was 10th, no?
I think there was a 12th place finish with Inzaghi once, if I'm not mistaken. If you want to check that out, it was Inzaghi, Milan.
This is why ChatGPT was invented. Anyway, go on, sorry.
So Ederson scored in the 62nd minute from a beautiful diving header. It was a really well-worked move that saw Lookman cutting inside, crossing to Bellanova, who was really inspired this game. He knocked the ball down for
10th.
Nice.
2014, 2015.
He knocked the ball down for Ederson. It looked like it was going to Retegui at first. Ederson popped out of nowhere with a flying header and he scored. Mike reacted well. Mike is he's on good form right now. He had a good save as well this game. Milan had a chance in the first half through Jovic, who turned really well, totally did the defender, but missed the target. It was a shame, and that was, to be honest, Milan's best chance of the game. Lookman found himself one-on-one in the second half. That's when Mike Maignan made himself big, came out and forced him into a save. There was a bizarre offside call on Leao who started the run from his own half. It was bizarrely incompetent by the linesman.
Ridiculous,
to be honest.
Sackable.
To be fair, Leao, for some reason, tried to cut inside way too much. I think he tried to angle his run centrally. Bellanova's very quick, and Bellanova did catch up to him. Bellanova, for those of you who don't know, was a youth product at Milan. And I think he had a clear point to prove. And to be honest, his career trajectory has been, to be honest, almost with a point to prove against Milan. Even the transfer to Inter and the way he played he's always played against Milan with so much passion and hunger and desire. So yeah.
Now he also, for those of you that don't know, uploaded a photo of Chiellini's cock on his Instagram page. No, genuinely. He did. He took a photo with Ronaldo after, I believe, what was a friendly match between Milan and Juve pre-season.
I know they beat us though.
He took a photo with Ronaldo and Juve's. There's a group in the background. There's Chiellini changing, clearly getting ass
Not even
naked.
changing, just walking around. Bro.
No, I think if I remember.
No, it was just, bro, he was, I remember it. It's imprinted in my brain, unfortunately. He was walking.
Chiellini,
He was walking naked, yes.
Uh-huh.
And Bellanova, he posted, like, look behind you. You know, I know you're with Ronaldo, and you came good, and he came good, but look behind you.
That's such a genuine mistake, though, bro. What can you do? But anyway, he's really fast. I think he's.
I liked the double winger system Gasperini played. It was really good for overloads, because he had Bellanova technically as a right centre back and Cuadrado as a wing back. So they were constantly overlapping and creating overloads against Theo.
And they know what they're doing. They targeted Theo Hernandez.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. Yes.
Good performance by Atalanta. I thought first half was very slow by both sides. It was almost frustrating seeing the overweighted passes.
Oh my god, it's so frustrating.
There was every single pass was overhit in the final third, particularly in the first half. And I'll go so far as to say that Atalanta had 2 chances, Milan had 1. Atalanta took 1 of them, Milan took none. That's the way the game went. Incredibly frustrating, to be fair, from both sides for the majority of the game. I thought Lookman was creating things, Ederson and their own.
Even though he was clumsy as well at this game.
He was clumsy as well, especially when running into Mike after Atalanta scored. Question. What happened to CDK, man? Is his 2025 drop-off has been... People were talking about him like the MVP for Atalanta in the first half of the season, as were we.
He had a Champions League performance like no other, no? He was up there with some greats statistically. No, he had a really great start of the season and he dropped off. I mean, we know that CDK as a player is a player who struggles with confidence issues and mental issues, to be honest. I'm not saying he's mentally ill or something like that. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying that when it comes to his confidence and his mentality on the pitch, he seems to struggle. He seems to be a little bit fragile. So, great start.
Shadow of his former self.
Great start to the season. Dipped toward in the second half, of course.
I think it's safe to say that Atalanta have gotten their hands on Champions League football now. I think they do have some tough fixtures remaining, and I'll just double check exactly who they have left to play, but I know that they have quite a tough run, and so now they've got Lecce, Monza. That's not very tough, Matt. And then they've got Roma, Genoa, Parma, so they've just finished their tough run, to be honest, because they had
3 losses
Milan,
in a row.
Bologna, Lazio, Fiorentina, Inter, Juve in a row. So
And they managed 3 wins. And 3 wins, 3 losses. Not bad, to be honest. They managed to keep their place in the top 4. So very good for Atalanta. Very good for Gasperini. Gets to leave on a bit of a high, you know. I mean, getting them Champions League qualification against all odds in a very competitive Serie A when it comes to our predictions at the start of the season. Bro, I was listening back to the episode. Bro, I put Atalanta in like 7th coming into the...
I put Lazio down there.
Yeah.
I think I had Atalanta
because
5th or 6th.
So many teams were looking good coming into the season, but nice to see that. To be fair, they hadn't even bought Retegui when we made that episode. Huh?
Yeah, it's true. We're talking about Genoa with Retegui and how they might finish even better than last season.
So yes, what I didn't like about Milan was the overly direct approach. Low block, every time you get the ball, you go forward. Forward.
The move every single time, because
Like, I know those are Milan's strengths, and to be honest, it only needs to pay off once for them to get a goal, but it won't hurt you to play the ball around a little bit and get a feel for it, because when you're 35 minutes into a game and you've barely touched the ball, you're not going to counter-attack and fucking score. Get comfortable with it. Play it from side to side a bit. Get a feel for the ball.
I don't care. I don't.
I love it.
I really don't care about 19% ball possession, and it shows how Milan were blown out of the water. No, shut up. Because Milan, what they're doing here is they're going for counter-attacking football, which I like. Because Milan have a team that they don't utilize to their strengths. They've got Teo Hernandez, Jimenez, Pulisic, Leao,
Yes, but balance.
Reinders, that in transition, give me a sec. In transition, they are incredibly quick, direct, and effective. So I don't care if Milan have 19% ball possession, because it's actually in that lack of 81% where they're most effective. My problem is when you actually have the ball, and Mike Maignan has the ball, or one of the defenders has the ball, it doesn't mean that you only have to counterattack or go direct immediately and force the move. If you have the ball, try to open up spaces. Try to create some kind of transition. Try to use the striker to drag a defender along with them and create space for someone. Try move the ball around and open up the team. Create a pocket of space somewhere. Don't just knock it up to Jovic. What the hell is going on, man? And then you see, there's one time where Milan managed to do that, and they play Leao through. There's no other situation you would want Leao on the ball. That is the only time, essentially, you want Leao on the ball. It's attacking that space down the left after a long ball. And he messes it up. That was the only good kind of passage of play that Milan had all game.
I mean,
otherwise, forcing the fucking move as if they have a striker like Giroud that's knocking the ball down to Leao over and over. At least play Tammy Abraham, if that's the case.
Yeah. No. I
agree. I don't know.
I agree. I mean, it was terrible. I thought Fofana and Reinders were really bad, to be honest with you. I thought they were. Like you said, man, their presence on the ball, they got the ball, they didn't even look around. They would try to play they tried to force these passes forward. There were moments where they came across as arrogant to me, especially Fofana. At one moment, you see him opening his arms, like calling for the ball arrogantly, like, look at me, I'm in space.
Jake.
Eventually, the ball was played to him, and he goes to play it forward and plays it immediately to the opponent.
Jake, I don't like Fofana. I'm going to be honest. I don't like Fofana. Now, do I think that Reinders and Fofana are ever a double pivot that's going to work in a 3-4-3? It's tough with their characteristics. I don't think we have someone... Milan don't have someone that can dictate play in midfield. Fofana can win you the ball back, but he's out of shape. He's out of shape. He doesn't give you his 100% tracking back, winning the ball back and dragging it
that's not
forward.
the type of player he is.
And it's not the type of player he is, but he's also a bit out of shape. He's a chunker.
I mean, Conceição said himself, we can't have players walking around here weighing 90 kilos.
Milan have to prioritize Ricci. Or just someone that can control the tempo of the game. Because Ricci sits deep. He doesn't need to track back and be super fit and win the ball and play it forward. He sits deep and he's that anchor right in front of the defense. I think someone like Ricci is exactly what Milan need. I also don't hate if it's a 3-man midfield. Imagine this, bro. Listen to this. Anguissa's out of contract in summer.
That's a player. That's a box-to-box.
So imagine this. Reinders, Ricci, and then either I'm being really ambitious. Anguissa or Ederson.
I mean, inshallah,
Inshallah, mashallah, and wallahi, all three.
On the Pope episode, here, saying inshallah. Bro, I just look at the Milan banter era when Milan were playing with Bonaventura, left center midfielder.
Good to know you're being present.
Biglia, defensive midfielder. Kessie, right midfielder. Balance. you nowadays Milan don't have someone who can win you the ball in midfield, and it's a very basic thing, and you realize when you watch the game because of how vulnerable the defense is, and it forced the manager to go for a 3 at the back formation simply to protect the team a little bit because of the lack of bodies in midfield. I mean, honestly, Reinders and Fofana don't offer enough coverage. That's what stresses me out.
Zero.
And that's why I wonder if maybe going forward Bondo might have a claim to fame over there, and a reason to be selected.
Bondo, it's Bondo.
I don't mind. I think Bondo's a good player. He's a very good box to box. I think he can get the job done, to be honest with you. I just don't like the fact that everyone's always trying to force the affair, man. And then when it comes to Atalanta this game, they were just compact. They transitioned into a 5-man backline whenever Milan had the ball, neutralizing them completely. They totally dominated possession through Ederson and Darun. Ederson and Darun, who are two players who can... Ederson is capable both offensively and defensively. He's the perfect box-to-box player, to be honest. And I say this while he's at Atalanta, because probably the second he leaves, he'll fizzle out into nothing. Like the rest of them, it's crazy. And then Darun is great defensively, but he also knows where to pass the ball. He knows how to keep the play going. He's very good and intelligent player.
He's literally the player Milan needs. Someone like Darun.
So I do think that Milan's team needs a bit of work. There is a foundation for something great, and I will die on this hill.
No, there's a young team, a super, super young team, with players that top teams wish they had. You have Pep going mental over Reinders. You have Chelsea going mental over Leao. You've got players that are world beaters. Everyone wants Pulisic. You know what I mean? It's just, there's... unfortunately, I don't think that the owners and the management have an idea of what a football team, of how to run a football team. Thankfully now they're attracted by the idea of a sporting director, and they're looking at a few options, and we can get into that in the next episode or the one after when we're well prepared for it. I know there's Iliatare that they're currently looking at. And hopefully it's someone with vision that knows that just has some previous experience of running a Serie A club. That's all Milan need, essentially.
My summary of Milan, I would have been surprised. I would have been surprised if Milan beat Atalanta, but I wouldn't be surprised if Milan beat Inter tonight. Because that's just the type of team that Milan are at the moment. They play up to these big games. They've totally got what it takes. And I just don't get it, man. I think it's a motivation issue. It might be an ego issue. It might be simply the fact that maybe some players have been there for too long. I don't know. Or it could simply be one season that hasn't gone well.
Devastatingly not well. But let's be clear about something. Let's be clear about one thing. Milan's last manager, Pioli. Fucking miss you, love you. I'm gonna tattoo you. I swear on my life I'm gonna tattoo you. Pioli. Where were Milan before their last manager? Banter era. Working their way out of it with Gattuso getting 5th place. But one manager later, Milan have taken a hit. Now, teams that have just come off a reign of having one manager for 5 years, they typically take a hit. Do they typically go down to 9th place? No. But Milan weren't helped by the decisions that were made in summer, because they were ridiculous decisions. Getting rid of Kalulu to bring in fucking Emerson Royal and not signing a replacement for Giroud. Getting Tammy Abraham, Jovic, Morata. No one wants either of them, man. You get all 3 of them.
To be fair,
I love Tammy. I like Tammy. Sorry, Tammy. I genuinely like.
Let's apologize to our bro. But yeah, you're right. I mean, that's not quite the...
Milan weren't helped. Yeah, but now, I think with a sporting director, Milan
But on your point of the banter era, 1 trophy, perhaps 2 to come.
Let's fucking go.
Perhaps.
Don't do this to me. Shall we jump to the next game?
Yes, man, because we're looping here. We're stuck in purgatory.
Shit, man. I'm a bit fucking drunk. I hate it during recording, man. Roma 1, Verona 0.
Hellas, bro. We call them Hellas.
Sorry, we call them... They changed it. Good. Roma 1, Hellas 0. I joked earlier that Roma are on this streak in 2025 of beating every single relegation team 1-0, which is true. Literally, this year, in 2025, they've beaten Lecce, Cagliari, Empoli, Parma, and Venezia, all 1-0. But I'm not going to take the piss out of them because they are on a 17-match unbeaten run. They're missing Dybala. They're also missing Abdul Hamid. But Pellegrini...
That sucks. Not Abdul Hamid.
Can I tell you how much I like that
Abdul
Dybala's injured, but he's on the bench just for the pure vibes.
You know why he's there? For the pre-match photo in the tracksuit.
The tracksuit is lit, and he's modelling it, but also...
No, he's there. It's nice to have a player of his caliber there.
It's very right. Ted Lasso. Verona still missed Tenkstedt and Harrui.
I can't believe there's so unlucky with this Tenkstedt thing. He came back from injury and he got injured again right after. And he's clearly the best player. Yeah.
And Suslov was only fit enough for the bench. As the game started, I was, probably like a lot of people, surprised to see that Dovbyk got the Player of the Month award for March. And I'm like, what the fuck? Dovbyk, Player of the Month for March? No way. There's so many better players. McTominay, him. And I realized that actually he got 3 goals in 4 matches. 3 goals in 4 matches, and they were all won by a 1-goal margin. So Dovbyk essentially got Roma 3 match winners over there. So I think it's fair enough. And also McTominay had his best football now in the month of April. Roma struck nice and early in the 4th minute. Cristante pinged a crossfield ball to Solé, who danced past Valentini and dinked it over Montepo, and Shomurodov pounced on the loose ball between the 2 defenders and tapped it in from close range. Roma weathered a late Verona storm, especially after Zanetti threw on attacking reinforcements like Livramento and Suslov, but Roma managed to get away with the 1-0 victory. Now, Roma scored in the 4th minute to make it 1-0, and the game ended 1-0. There isn't a hell of a lot to talk about when it comes to this game. However, we do need to commend Roma exactly for what they've done. And one guy that I just want to highlight over and over again is Solé. Because they signed Solé. So Solé was on loan at Frosinone from Juve last season. Juve got Solé back, and as a part of their really cold round of discarding any sort of young talent that they've had, they've also got rid of Solé and gave him to Roma, I believe 30 million, something of the sort, 25 to 30 million. And at the start, it almost looked like Juve did the right thing because it didn't. 25.6.
That might include bonuses, so yeah.
It seemed like Juve might have had some kind of right, some kind of correctness in making that decision, but as the season
as in it paid off, as in
that Solé wasn't really performing at Roma. I always believe in young talent, right? But he wasn't performing at Roma at the start, or rather the managers didn't really manage to play him and Dybala together. But with Dybala's injury, Solé has really risen to the occasion and stepped in to the very, very, very whatever boots of Dybala. And he is literally impersonating Dybala. He is being Dybala for them while Dybala isn't on the pitch. And it's symbolic and it's beautiful, and I think he's the new guy for Roma.
And he's playing like kind of, like you said, he's literally imitating Dybala. Like you see him on the left, you see him on the right, he covers a lot of ground, he's taking set pieces, he's really playing a massive role for this Roma side. You see his heat map, it's mental, he's everywhere, he's all over the place. He's got 4 goals and 2 assists in the league. He started 17 games. Granted, he didn't have the best start, but right now he's really coming into form. And let's not forget about the unsung hero, the guy that will go down as a cult hero in Roma folklore, the guy who goes hand in hand with Ranieri, just like you have Drogba and Mourinho, and you have Lukaku, and you have Conte, you have Ranieri and Eldor Shomurodov.
Fuck yes,
the guy he brought with him from Cagliari, the guy who has been making the difference this season, Eldor Shomurodov. Despite only starting 6 games this season, he's on 4 goals and 2 assists, and quite often they're big goals. And you see him right now, man, he's flying. You see his celebration. You see him. He's in heaven right now. Shomurodov.
That was beautiful. You've just given Shomurodov the something he deserves, to be honest, because one thing that Shomurodov gives you is
a lisp.
I lisp there. Badly, bro. I lisped badly there. Shomurodov, I said. What a disaster this is. Today is probably the worst day of my life. Shomurodov. Sure. Alright, bro. Fucking hell.
I'm just laughing at my joke, man. One thing Shomurodov gives you, a lisp.
Shomurodov gives you industry. He's a very industrious player. He wears his heart on his sleeve, and I remember us saying that he'd work under Mourinho. And when he was under Mourinho, we're like, we see this working, because you'll bring Shomurodov on when you have the lead and he'll hold the ball up well and whatever. But I think that Shomurodov is Ranieri's utilizing him well in his rotation with Artem Dovbyk. They both give you something a little bit different, but stylistically they're quite similar at the same time.
They just have different strengths,
crazy,
but they're the similar
crazy
profile.
change profile-wise, but they excel at different things. Dovbyk is better at build-up play and at dropping in as that false 9. Shomurodov gives you that little bit more energy, and
he can stretch the line more.
He presses, and he's the more active forward. I forgot where I was going with this.
You can play him in behind, whereas you'd play to Dovbyk's feet.
I was gonna say, he's a great option to have in place of Dovbyk in this rotation system. I also would really fancy seeing him move to an Udinese, a Torino,
Fiorentina.
a mid-table team, a Fiorentina, a Como, maybe next season. A mid-table team. I think he could cement himself as their go-to starting striker. He can get some good numbers, and he can really, because he took a very a heavy step, you know what I mean? Went from Cagliari to Roma. I'd like to see him somewhere halfway through, and he could be a big fish in a small pond, I guess.
The thing is, let's not forget that Shomurodov last season was at Cagliari and didn't manage to become a regular starter at Cagliari. So it is a massive step that he's taken so far. He's in a good place. I mean, he's at Roma, you know. I mean, if he can continue to play like this, then he's going to get minutes, you know. And even next season, no matter who they get. We'll see. We'll see what happens with Shomurodov. I would love to see him play a more important role, to be honest with you. I mean, a more regular role, rather, at maybe a team that's like mid-table, as you said. But so far, I'm pleased to see him like this.
Same. One more question about Roma, and then we can move on to your next game, which I believe is Como's 3-0 victory.
Yes. What a victory.
Roma, much like myself, are dreaming of Ancelotti. So I believe Ancelotti is going to go... I believe Ancelotti wants to become the greatest manager in football history. And I don't think Ancelotti is far off the amount of Champions Leagues and domestic titles that he has. And his longevity at the very, very top, apart from that move to Everton. If Ancelotti were to win a World Cup with Brazil...
He's been linked with Brazil for longer than...
Maybe now's the time, because he's officially leaving Real. He's officially leaving Real after they
after the final, apparently.
After the Copa del Rey final, I believe.
Who's Ray, man?
Huh?
Nothing.
Okay.
Who's Ray?
Copa del Rey.
Yeah. Who the fuck is Ray?
Anyway, so Ancelotti has a choice. Milan want him, Roma want him, Brazil want him. He's done it with Milan. He won 2 Champions Leagues with Milan, 2007 and 2003.
Yes, that was him against Juve. Yeah,
the penalty shootout. That was Ancelotti. So would he go back to Milan? Would he go to Roma or would he go to Brazil? That's the question. Everyone is dreaming that Carlo Ancelotti will join them. Where do you want to see him?
I admit that it would be excellent. It would be very cool to see Ancelotti back at Milan to kind of save.
He could really
save the club.
Could really use Ancelotti for the egos because he's great at managing world-class players and the likes of Leao, Theo, Pulisic. Well, let me take Pulisic out of the equation because he doesn't really have an ego.
But the likes opposite.
Leao and Theo that need a little bit of a slap on the bum or a slap on the wrist. Ancelotti would be perfect for that.
I mean, where do I want to see Ancelotti? I would like to see him at Milan again. However, then I also think about like the long-term future of Milan. But then again, it feels naive to do so because nowadays it's rare to have a coach at a club for 4 or 5 years anyway. You get a coach and you think to yourself, okay, this is the guy we're with for the next 3 seasons, and within 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, he's sacked. You know? So this is just what football has become. So maybe going with a profile as big as Ancelotti actually gives you some serenity in the fact that they're not going to sack the coach. So the problem is besides the coach, you know, unlike when you hire someone like Fonseca. On your point of Ancelotti wanting to become the best manager in the world, he's won the Premier League, he's won League One, he's won everything there is to win in Italy, including the Serie A, Coppa Italia, he's won the Champions League with Milan. So what is left is international management. So I think if he did actually care about that stuff, he wouldn't go to Milan or to Roma.
Go to Brazil.
Now, what does Ancelotti want? We don't know. Right, he might want maybe to go back to Italy to settle down.
Maybe retire in Italy, go back home.
Yeah, not even retire, to live in Italy, to have the Italian lifestyle again, to be close to your family, your friends, whatever. Let's not forget that Ancelotti was a player at Roma, a very good player at Roma, who won the Serie A and the Coppa Italia on 4 separate occasions as a player with Roma. So he is a player a guy who would love to manage someone like Roma. So what's he going to value? What are his priorities right now? Shall I become the best manager in the world? Shall I go to my club that launched my career and that kind of like, you know, that I won a league with, that I became a legend at? Or shall I go to the club that as a player and as a manager I've already won it all?
Go back home.
Where's home? Roma or Milan?
No, Milan's home. Spend the most time there.
I think you should coach Malta.
I think you should coach Malta as well. But anyway, that's have to be seen. I think Ancelotti would be the perfect fit for Roma, apart from the formational differences. I think Roma kind of need someone that fans respect and that has this kind of honor about them and club legacy. The same way De Rossi worked for the first 6 months of his contract, and the same way Ranieri worked when he came in, because he has that pedigree at Roma. I think Ancelotti would be good. It's no secret that Roma are also interested in Fabregas, but Fabregas has pretty much turned down everyone and said, no, I'm Como's manager.
Smart.
Como are going to be the shit because of me. Absolutely smart.
So smart.
I've also seen that they're interested in Patrick Vieira. Patrick Vieira, I don't hate the fact that they're into Patrick Vieira because of what he's done with Genoa. Just, is it really a risk worth taking with Vieira after they fucked up with De Rossi? And you're rich. You're going to go for another manager that you're basing their success of being with a relegation threatened side.
Vieira has done well in 6 months at Genoa. Is that enough to give him a long-term contract at Roma?
No, because De Rossi did well for 6 months, and then look what he did in the second. In the second
you hear
spell.
This? My voice. What the hell happened?
I
took
don't
a bad
know, bro.
sip and my voice changed.
Shall we jump to the next game just to keep it moving a little bit? Yes. I believe it's yours. Give him a sec, guys. Madonna, this guy. I'm terribly fucking sorry to all our listeners. for Jay.
Matthew is. I thought you were apologizing for yourself.
I'm apologizing for you. You've been a
Thank
disaster.
you for apologizing. For apologizing on my behalf.
No worries, bro.
Como 3, Lecce 0 at the Via del Mare. For those of you who don't know, that's Lecce Stadium.
Diao for Ballon d'Or.
And Pazza. Like, yeah.
You mean Kaká and Shevchenko?
Kaká and Shevchenko, literally. So, Lecce's relegation woes were deepened. However, they would rest and seek some solace and comfort in the fact that Venezia and Empoli did end in a draw. As it stands right now, 62 minutes into Parma, Parma have a 1-0 lead. So we will see what happens. Parma and Lecce would have been licking their lips watching that 6-pointer over there. Yeah. Diao's brace initiated by a brilliant Nico Paz assist for the opener, and I cannot stress just how brilliant it was.
Nico Paz's assist.
It was a perfectly weighted ball, man. It just kind of froze. It almost ended up moving towards the player running in behind. It was to Diao. It was so good.
Just to point out, Fiorentina have made a 2-1. Beltran scored.
Oh, excellent.
Also on my bench.
Thank you. Yes, so then Diao scored again in stoppage time, and in between, Eduardo Goldaniga scored his first goal in 5 years. It had been 5 years since Goldaniga scored in Serie A, and he did enjoy that moment. Butes had a great game.
He did. He had some great stops.
Yes, he had great stops on Tete Morente, and Kevin Indri. But Como, at the end of the day, did dominate, and it did push them up the table. And if anyone thought they might get relegated, they definitely are not getting relegated. Though I think most people know that they were here to stay from the get-go. Right, when it comes to their project, it's clearly a good project. Como played the 4-2-3-1 this game. They emphasized fluid attacking play and high pressing. As always, are one of the best teams to watch in Serie A. Nico Paz is given a very unique role nowadays as a free roaming number 10. He dictates the tempo. He goes where he pleases. He unlocks defenses on his own. His relationship with Diao is absolutely amazing. They celebrate together. They play. They're like salt and pepper, those two, man. They are absolutely brilliant. They complement each other perfectly. And I love the fact that they're doing it at a minnow team that kind of has many players who could take that next step. But let's hope that they spend more time together, because this reminds me of a smaller micro version of...
I know what you're going to say. Let's say it in 3-1, okay?
3-2-1
Bayer Leverkusen. But you see what I mean?
Yeah. Ajax had that generation of a bunch of players who were all deserving of a big move, because they all worked so well together and got that club to such a high level in that run. Donny van de Beek. I can't remember who
there was. Van de Beek, De Jong, and De
Ligt. Yeah.
There was that forward that my God, Tadic.
Dusan
yes, Tadic.
Bro, they were so good together in that team, and then almost you pick them out, and not to say they all struggled, but none of them really thrived when they left.
No, because it's in a system.
Exactly.
It's in the coach is system.
And I hope that Diao and Paz stay under Fabregas, man, for another season at least, man.
That's why the reason I said Leverkusen is because when Leverkusen did what they did last season, got to the Europa League final, won the Bundesliga, did all they did, and Xabi Alonso was the star man. Of course, they've got Wirtz, they've got Frimpong, Xhaka, and all these guys. Xabi Alonso is the new hot shit. Was a world-class player. Now he's the manager. It's the perfect story for a new up-and-coming manager. The second the season ended, he looked his players in the eyes and said, I'm not leaving, and if I'm not leaving, then none of you are leaving. And what we did this season, we'll do even more next season. And that's the kind of shit I want to see with Como. As in, they've brushed any kind of potential that they have in them as a team, as a project, and as a system. Because you could see, even in the games that they lost, 1-0, 2-0, 2-1, 3-0, they've lost these games. but you always see that there's that potential in them. The way that they move the ball around, it's like all it's missing is being refined. It's like raw players trying it out for the first time, and I think they do a good job of bringing in some experienced Spanish players to do it, kind of thing. They're not far off. I think next season Como could do really, really well.
You mentioned players doing it for the first time. I mean, these players, it's their first season at Como, most of them. Some of them haven't even been here for 4 months at Como. So it's is early days,
team, bro.
You know.
It's a new team.
I just hope this Nico Paz is one of the best players in the league, and everyone's gonna be on him. Everyone's gonna want him.
Inter are having dinner with his dad, bro. They're whining and dining the fuck out of his dad.
Let them wine and dine. Enjoy the food. But if I were Nico Paz, I would stay put, man, if I were him. Now, I know it's easier said than done, because when some clubs come calling, it's hard to refuse. But I think at this point, you just need to set your identity as a player. And an identity can't be set in one season, you know. This season, he was the breakout star. Next season, he needs to be the leader. And Como, they've got money, they've got a good foundation. Next season, they'll improve players. Try to go for that Conference League push. Try to lead the team to a Conference League push. That's what will make you an elite player in the long run. Achieving these things at this tender age and at a team so small, where the people around you are good enough to empower you to do so, you know? You've got teammates who are very capable. You've got owners who are filthy rich. And you've got a manager who's obsessed with the game, who's super passionate. And he's also on an upward trajectory. Look at this as kind of like a high school full of prodigies. You know? When you've got a high school full of prodigies, you know, they graduate together and then they spread. Let these guys graduate together. That's it.
I
That's
agree
all
with
I have
you.
to say.
Unfortunately, I don't think any of this is in the hands of
Nico Paz. It's in Real Madrid's filthy, dirty fucking hands.
Because essentially this summer they have an option to get him back for 9 million euros. They have an option to get him back for 9 million euros. And if they decide to stall that and get him in 2026, in the summer of 2026, then it's 10 million. And if they stall it until 2027, it's 11 million.
If Real were smart, they would leave him there for another. It's only 1 million more.
I agree.
And it's not like he's going to walk straight into their team.
I don't get what Inter are trying to do if he clearly has these ties with Real Madrid. And I think it's a no-brainer for both Nico Paz and for Real Madrid that he's clearly in a system with a progressive Spanish manager when he could play in a tactical system, learn football through the eyes of a Spanish coach that has been there both on the international scale and in La Liga. Keep him there, sign him back in a year, 2 years when you actually need him. I think it's a no-brainer for both the individual and the club alike. Personally, I think Nico Paz should stay put, go back to Real Madrid next season or the season after.
Agreed. On the other hand, Lecce in big trouble. They are sinking. They didn't look great this game. They started in their 4-4-2 formation, and it really left a lot to be desired. The chances they have are pretty much forced shots, and the players don't really have that kind of chemistry between themselves. I'm not sure if I think it's more of a teamwork issue, to be honest with you, where Tete, Morente, Pierotti and Kristovic, if they have an opportunity to pass or to shoot, they're all going to shoot every time, all of them. And yeah, they're just not really playing as a team right now. And
They've
it's
got
not
some
looking
tough,
good for them. They're in
fixtures
17th right now. They are just 1 point above Venezia, who are in 18th. And Lecce's coming games are against Atalanta, Napoli, Verona, Torino, and Lazio. It's not looking good for them.
And on the other hand, if you look at exactly like you said, Atalanta, Napoli, Verona, Torino, Lazio, which I mean over there you see one key fixture, and there's a Verona away, which is essentially a 6-pointer. You look at Empoli have got Bologna in the Coppa left. Then Fiorentina, Lazio, Parma, Monza, Verona. So also tough fixtures through the Bologna, Fiorentina, Lazio, but then 3 6-pointers there for Empoli with Parma, Monza and Verona. So it is essentially in Empoli's hands over there. They could definitely collect more points than Lecce. And then you look at Venezia's fixtures, which are super tough. They've got Milan, Torino, Fiorentina, Cagliari, Juve. One key fixture stands out there. It's the Cagliari one, but that's away from home. Cagliari away is fucking difficult. Then you look at Parma, who are currently playing Juve, and after that they have Lazio, Como, Empoli, Napoli, Atalanta. It really is tough to predict. There are two teams. We're banking on either Empoli or Venezia surviving. For all we know, they could both survive. We have no idea. I think we'll have a much clearer indication once this Parma-Juve game ends, because Parma are currently leading 1-0.
I think Parma have been pretty good under Kivo. I think he might be just enough to save them. Venezia, man, for how
Fucking Venezia, man.
That was the most, honestly, Milan lost 1-0 to Atalanta. The most disappointing thing that happened to me this weekend was that Empoli goal by Onyorin, man.
Mm-hmm.
And you know who was disappointed and distraught by it? Yeboah, man. Yeboah. I don't know if did he start?
Segue. Let's jump into it. The last game we're going to be covering is Empoli 2, Venezia 2. The game that gave Lecce some breathing room. The game that allowed Zanetti to undo his top button, loosen his tie a bit, and go, fuck, that was close. Because placed 18th and 19th, these sides entered this match level on points with 24. The winner would finally exit the relegation zone and jump Lecce, but it was not to be. Empoli still decimated, to be fair to them. They missed Ismaili, Male, Kwame, Sazanov, Zurkowski, Haas, and Pellegrini.
What fucking hell?
Bro, those are key players for them.
Of course.
They've not super important rotational players, because they've actually, Empoli got decent depth. But do they? Because all these players are out injured. It's crazy.
Look. Ismaili, Malek, Kwame, Pellegrini. Henderson was out as well. No, Henderson played, but he was doubtful.
Even Kakacha, but they're playing.
Okay, so they've got 4 fucking clear starters.
Don't you dare leave out Zurkowski.
Zurkowski hasn't been a clear starter. He's just been a jolly this season. He should be, in theory, I know.
For a team that struggles to get goals, Zurkowski could really get them a few important ones.
Yes, it's true. However...
Did he score a hat-trick last season?
Yes, he's only played 5 times this season. He's had a rough time. Last season, he had a good one. Let's see. And last season, he had 13 games, 4 goals... and 0 assists. And I think he scored
4 goals came in 2 games.
Yes, I mean...
The perfect hat-trick he had scored.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Right, left head. Ascock feet.
Tits as badge. What? Venezia only missed Stankovic, Svoboda and Sagrado.
Who?
Right? All the action took place in the second half. Okay? In the 47th minute.
It was cagey in the first. There were chances, but it was so cagey. They were so scared. And the first goal unlocked everything.
There was a moment in the 47th minute where Colombo broke through and he was brought down by Marcandalli just outside the box. There's a yellow card that was awarded, but Empoli were adamant that it was a red card, but VAR confirmed there was no denial of a clear goal-scoring opportunity. Some people found that controversial, yada yada. We're not here to talk about that. 60th minute, the first goal of the game took place, and it came through Fazzini. Buzio lost the ball in midfield. Henderson burst forward and sent across a forward chipped pass into the box, and Fazzini volleyed it in beautifully. That is his first goal of the season. That's crazy.
And it feels like he's scored this season because he's actually had so many good games. Apart from the fact that injuries did plague his season a little bit towards the middle part. This was a goal of the week contender. What a goal. Yeah.
Really well taken by Fazzini and a great pass through by Henderson. In the 71st minute, Yeboah equalized for Venezia. It was Caviglia that swung in a corner. Of course, it's Caviglia that swung in a dangerous corner. Vasquez misjudged it. We're talking about Turati going out incorrectly. Vasquez... he was right to go out.
It's Nicolucci's corner, man. It
the
was
way it
perfect.
dips, the way it
It was
dips.
like,
But the keeper should have done better. The
Yes.
keeper should have.
but it was
boom,
just
2 hands
perfectly out
punched
of
it.
his reach to tempt him. Yeah.
I think the keeper could have done better, but yes. We know how
It's worth
Nicolucci
mentioning that
puts them
Yeboah
in.
came on in the 62nd minute. Huh?
Yes, Yeboah was a
Completely-
substitute.
Yeah.
He after the goalkeeper Vasquez missed it, Yeboah got it at the far post, and then in the 85th minute, this was when I was there at Easter lunch, and I was going fucking mental, bro, fucking mental during Easter lunch. Where Buzio scored in the 85th minute, Yeboah after scoring he turned provider where he crossed the ball into the box. Gitkier's shot was saved, but Buzio was there to clean up the rebound. It was really funny. I don't know if you saw, but Goliotrice collided with Vasquez, with the goaler. And he landed not facing the net. He stood up. The ball was in the back of the net. He didn't realize. So while they were celebrating, he was locked in. See, on the line, trying to see where the ball is to clear the ball off the line. Like that, he's like, ah, shit, they scored. Like, but the 85th minute, nuts. At this point, I was sure, like, holy shit, my call before the season even started of a miracle in Venice, a Venetian miracle, was gonna take place. 1 minute later. 1 fucking minute later, bro. Good for Empoli. You guys know I've been rooting for Venezia. Really disappointing stuff by Venezia. Anjorin won a duel. There were 4 players around the ball in a dangerous
the right
position.
back who committed out of possession. Both midfielders were on him.
Venezia players out of position. All are around the ball. Empoli win it. As Empoli win it, one other player goes to mark, I believe Caviglia.
Caviglia goes to cover the fullback position, yes.
Goes to cover the full-back position. Anjorin has the ball, and in front of him, yes, there are 4 defenders, including Itzes in the middle, 3 defenders rather. The other centre-back was part
They
of
were organised in reality, Venezia.
They were organised,
Yeah.
but Anjorin had a clear shot at goal. Itzes was there attempting to block it. The keeper was positioned in such a way that was in the middle. He didn't prioritize the left or the right. The way that Anjorin placed the ball was perfect.
Excellent. It was
perfect.
excellent. What a goal. Eh?
Perfect.
What a
Almost
goal.
hit the post and went in. It was
and
in that
I've
side
watched
netting.
that goal many times.
Trying
and
to blame someone,
Trying to
eh?
figure out what the hell went wrong and how Venezia could have prevented it. I think they pressed the player on the ball in midfield well. They were unlucky to not win it. They had enough men on him. Nicolucci Caviglia covered the wing well. It says blocked the man well. The goalkeeper, granted, he wasn't prioritizing the far post or the near post, but was positioned centrally, and fair enough. I think you just have to, at this point, accept that Anjorin couldn't have done any better.
No, he couldn't.
He got the ball. He was the one
Brilliant.
who won the duel against all those people. I think Fazzini had a hand to play in it, but it was just a moment of brilliance and a moment of hunger. And Empoli, I know we always say we root for Venezia and whatever. Empoli as a team historically are underdogs. They're from a working class fishing village, a club of the people, a club that doesn't have the finances that Venezia has, for example. So it is a nice story in itself, the fact that they managed to not lose this game. And so happy to see Xing Tian coming on.
Xing Tian. Sean Etienne.
Sean Etienne.
Also, of course, just to add to your point,
Xing Tian.
last season, Empoli had the Davide Nicola miracle.
Yeah.
If they could have another miracle this season, I'm all for it. It's just disappointing to see Venezia come up and then get relegated immediately.
Yeah, I know, and
again.
it's the second time. It sucks.
There are some things to point out in this match. I do think that the bigger picture was all covered, that both teams failed to capitalize on Lecce's slip up against Como. Survival is slipping through their fingers with only 5 games left, and I think it is very likely that we will be seeing both of these teams get relegated by the end of the season. Empoli are now 18 games without a win in Serie A. Their last league victory came in 2024. But Anjorin staged that comeback, pure class by him. Possibly their best goal of the season. Empoli, a team that has really struggled to get goals. you're in.
I'm not sure. I can't remember their goal catalogue. There might be an insane one that we're forgetting. You know what I mean? But this was definitely one of the most important goals. For sure.
You remember Destro's goals for Empoli that one season
when he scored holding up water bottles.
Yes, bro. Crazy. Destro was so cool. But there isn't too much to add to that. Bro, can you please, for the love of God, stop trying to make me laugh while we're trying to close the episode? Just when we have 10 games to cover, we spend 2 hours, 5 minutes. We had 6 games and we're on 1 hour and 43 minutes.
But that tracks, huh?
Does it track?
Yeah, of course it does.
I'm not gonna
turn that 60 to 125, 125 to 250, 250 to 500,000. Nobody could do with me now. Who with me?
Let's end it. Let's end it.
Let's pass me the bobblehead.
Okay. Before we do go, sincerely, just from the bottom of our hearts, let me tell you what. All jokes aside, this guy.
He's awesome, man. He was great.
He was the fucking Don, bro. This guy was the fucking Don. Did you see
the most progressive Pope?
Bro, by a landslide. Did you see the conversation he had with the gay person that was saying, look, I don't know how to feel about Catholicism, whatever, about Christianity, because me as an individual, I don't feel accepted. And he was the first Pope to look him in the eyes and go, these labels mean fucking nothing because you are a lamb of God. Like, you are an individual and this label doesn't make you. The first guy to do that. And the first guy to talk about football as well. Like, I'm so glad Argentina won the World Cup while this G was alive, man.
Amazing. My third favorite, Francesco.
Cesco's first. Cesco is first. Francesco Borch, Roma fan, named after Totti. He's the man.
Totti second. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Amazing.
Thank you guys for putting up with us this episode.
Apologies if we've offended anyone.
Really sorry if we've offended anyone.
But I think people know us by now, that we're a bit...
I hope so, but we also have first-time listeners every episode. Hi, welcome, guys.
Hi.
Send us your questions, engage with us, follow us, love us. The same way we love you. Become a patron, $3.99 a month. Imagine every month you buy a pack of chicken nuggets.
Exactly, that's it.
That's it.
Except it's healthier.
It's healthier and you're helping us grow the studio and grow the platform. I'm gonna stop. Like, why didn't this episode end yet?
Thank you guys.
Love you all.
Love you.
Ciao.
Bye.
Ciao.
If you like Serie A or have ever liked it in the past, it's a good opportunity for you to listen once a week and you'll get filled in.
The football weekend, that's like the main dish. But then a few days later, you drop your episode and that's like the dessert. And the dessert is just perfect.
It's good, the cake.
It makes it feel like we're all sitting in a room together, just BSing with each other.
The atmosphere is fantastic.
I promise nobody will ask you to send boob pics.
Sometimes maybe good, sometimes maybe shit.
I love how you go into so much detail and show so much passion towards each and every team. Literally, no team is left undiscussed.
When I listen to you, it's like I'm talking to you in a pub. It's like I'm chatting to a friend and you're chatting to me.